They say the truth sets you free, but sometimes it puts a price on your head. For 17 years, he lived with nothing: cold winters, dollar store dinners, and secondhand sneakers, while his real family flew private jets and smiled on magazine covers. And the only reason they found out he existed? Because of a DNA test he ordered for fun. What came next wasn't a reunion. It was a cover-up. Before we dive in, if this story moves you, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to keep the stories coming your way. Just a heads up, we don't just share stories here, we invite you to experience them. There's a little quiz at the end, just for fun. It's our way of saying thanks for watching closely and spotting the subtle moments others might miss. Be the first to answer. Don't let someone else steal your spotlight. Meet Smith Johnson, a high school senior who just wanted to know where he came from. He never imagined the answer would make him a threat. Smith Johnson always knew something didn't add up. Different skin tone, different hair, different eyes, and a mom who dodged every question about his dad like it was a loaded gun. On his 17th birthday, tired of the lies, Smith scraped together enough to buy a DNA test kit online. He never told his mom. 6 weeks later, a result hit his inbox. Parent match, 98.7% probability, Thomas Langford. Smith blinked at the name. It meant nothing to him until a Google search pulled up article after article. Thomas Langford, Chief Executive Officer of Langford Technologies, net worth $12.3 billion. Photos of the man speaking at conferences, walking red carpets, accepting awards. And then, one grainy photo, almost 20 years old, of Thomas with his arm around a woman outside a university tech lab. Smith's mother. He didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, he sent an email to Langford's legal department, attached the DNA match, asked for a conversation. He never got a reply, but 2 days later, a black SUV appeared across the street from his apartment, and a woman in a gray blazer showed up at his school, claiming to be a college recruiter. Except she never asked about his GPA, just told him flatly, "We're aware of your connection. For everyone's safety, you need to stop pursuing this." Smith asked who sent her. She didn't blink. "Your family," she said. He tried to ignore it. But suddenly, things started changing. His social media accounts were shut down, all of them. His school email got locked. Then came the anonymous package, a new phone, a prepaid debit card with $10,000, and a typed letter. "Consider this your fresh start. There's no place for you here." That night, when he got home, his mom was already packing. "They know where we live," she said quietly. They offered relocation, said it's safer that way. Smith refused, so they escalated. 3 days later, 2 men in black suits showed up at his job at the grocery store. They didn't speak, just handed him a sealed envelope. Inside was a legal document, signed by Langford attorneys. A gag order, a cash offer of $500,000, but only if he agreed to disappear quietly, change his name, never contact the Langford family again, never speak to the press. Smith tore it up. That night, his apartment was broken into. Nothing was stolen, except his laptop, his birth certificate, and the envelope from the DNA company. When he tried to file a report, the officer at the station said there was no record of his address on file. His school said he'd been unenrolled. His landlord claimed the lease had been terminated, without his mom's signature. And then, he was gone. Not by choice, not into the night. Smith Johnson was erased. He didn't vanish. They made him disappear, every trace of him, methodically scrubbed. Because for the Langford family, one poor kid with their blood was more dangerous than any scandal. Smith Johnson's world didn't just shrink, it dissolved. The days that followed weren't days at all. They were gaps, glitches, hours that moved but didn't count. His mother barely spoke. She made calls in hushed tones from behind closed doors. When he pressed her, she said nothing. just placed a trembling hand on his cheek and whispered, "We were never supposed to matter this much." They were moved out of their apartment in the middle of the night. No boxes, no farewells. A black car pulled up, and they were told it was for their protection. Not a question, not a choice. They were dropped in a suburban neighborhood 4 states away, a town so beige it hurt to look at. The house was furnished, leased under a fake name, new school, new IDs, no phones, no internet, just prepaid credit cards and a stern instruction: keep your heads down, don't make noise. But Smith wasn't wired that way. He'd already tasted the truth, swallowed it like fire, and it was burning a hole in his gut. At his new school, he kept his head low, but his eyes were always scanning. The library had newspapers on microfilm. He dug through them during lunch, looked for anything about Langford, about illegitimate children, lawsuits, family disputes, anything that might suggest someone else had gone through this. He found nothing. Until one afternoon, a substitute teacher paused while taking attendance, squinting at the name on her clipboard. "Smith Johnson?" she asked. "That's not your real name, is it?" He froze. Everyone looked up. She smiled casually, but there was something behind it, something tight. "Never mind, just thought I'd seen you before. Must have been someone else." After class, he followed her to the parking lot, cornered her by her car. "Who do you think I am?" he asked. She looked over her shoulder, then said, low, "Careful, kid. Some people aren't meant to be found." She drove off. He memorized her license plate, but it was gone from the school system by morning. Her name never appeared on the schedule again. That night, he asked his mom directly, "Did you know who he was when you had me?" Silence. "I need to know," he said, louder this time. "I need to know if you lied to me, if I was just some accident." She slammed her mug against the table. Coffee sloshed everywhere. "You think I chose this? You think I wanted to raise you in borrowed clothes and hide your face for 17 years? Her voice cracked. "Thomas Langford knew about you. I told him. He said he'd handle it. And this..." She waved at the plain walls, the boxed TV, the nothing life. This is what that meant. Smith stepped back. The walls of the house felt closer than they had minutes before. "So, you let him buy us off?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. She just wiped the table and turned her back. The next day, he skipped school. He took a bus to the nearest city and walked into a Langford Tech building. No appointment, no plan, just an envelope with a printed copy of the DNA results and a letter he'd written by hand. "You can erase me from your systems, but I'm still here. You owe me more than silence." He handed it to the security desk, said it was for Mr. Langford. The man raised a brow and said, "You mean Junior, right? Thomas Langford Jr. ? Smith blinked. "I didn't know there was a junior." The guard nodded toward the top floor. "Big shot. He's the public face now." Smith left the envelope. Then he waited. A week passed. Nothing. 2 weeks. Then one afternoon, he got a text from a number he didn't recognize. "Meet me at the Highland Park fountain, 7 p.m. Come alone." He hesitated, but his feet were already moving. At the fountain, a woman in her mid-30s sat on a bench feeding pigeons, slim, sharply dressed, sunglasses, despite the dusk. "You're persistent," she said without looking up. "Dangerous trait in your bloodline." Smith sat down cautiously. "Are you with them?" he asked. "I was, until I got out." She tossed another piece of bread. "Not everyone survives a Langford exit. I got lucky." Smith studied her. "Who are you?" She took off her glasses. Her eyes were tired but sharp. "I'm the family's former in-house fixer," she said. "When problems came up, babies, mistresses, unwanted relatives, I was the solution." He said nothing. She handed him a folder. "This is what you wanted." Inside were documents, handwritten notes, paternity confirmations, legal memos with red stamps, confidential, legacy risk, and photos. One of him at 5 years old walking with his mother, one of him at a grocery store, one of him asleep on a bus. They'd been tracking him since he was a child. "This is what family looks like in boardrooms," she said. "Power doesn't share, and blood doesn't make you safe. It makes you a liability." Smith gripped the folder tightly. "What do they want me to do?" he asked. "Die quietly?" She didn't flinch. "Number just disappear, and never claim what's yours." He looked away, the fountain's steady splashes suddenly too loud. "Why are you helping me?" She pulled something from her coat, a photo of a young man, maybe 20, in a military uniform. "My son," she said. "Langford blood, too. He tried to sue for recognition. Got reassigned overseas. He never came back." Smith's chest tightened. She stood. "Don't be a hero," she said. "Just survive." Then she walked away, heels clicking on concrete. The next morning, his mother was gone. The house was unlocked. Her bags were gone. No note, no message. Smith tried calling the burner phone she'd been using. Disconnected. He walked through every room like he was tracing a crime scene. That afternoon, an envelope appeared under the front door. Inside, a new ID with his face under the name Adam Lane. A bus ticket. A simple note. "They know you met her." He stared at the paper. No signature. Just a smudge of lipstick on the corner. He didn't run. Instead, he went back to the Langford Tech Tower, this time targeting the junior. Through months of news clips and videos, he discovered that Thomas Langford Jr. was the golden child, the heir, the next CEO, charismatic, polished, everything the press adored. But then Smith noticed something strange in the DNA documents the fixer had given him. Langford Jr. and Thomas Sr. had different mitochondrial markers, different maternal lines. Smith double-checked the data. Again. Thomas Langford Jr. wasn't Thomas Langford's biological son, but he was. The air in his lungs turned heavy. His name had been buried, scrubbed, rewritten, while someone else wore his blood like a crown. Smith Johnson stood at the edge of the rooftop parking lot overlooking the tower. Below, cars streamed in and out. Security men patrolled. Cameras scanned faces. He didn't know if he'd go inside tomorrow, or the next day, or ever. But something in him had shifted. They didn't just erase him to hide a scandal. They did it because he was the real heir. And if that was true, then no gag order in the world could silence what was coming. Smith Johnson stood on the rooftop just a few more minutes, letting the wind press against him like a reminder that he still existed, still had a body, a pulse, a presence in a world that had tried so many times to erase him. But standing wasn't enough anymore. He walked down the stairwell of the parking garage, clutching the manila folder the fixer had given him like it was a passport to something more than survival. He didn't go home. He didn't go to the motel. He went to a public co-working space, paid in cash for a 24-hour desk rental, and locked himself in one of the private glass pods. Then he opened the laptop. The video was still there. Langford, seated at a wooden table, shadowed and quiet. The framed family portrait behind him like a confession in plain sight. Smith stared at it for a long time. Not the man, not the power he held, but the picture, the child in it, the smile that wasn't posed, the small unconscious lean into his mother's hip. That was him. That wasn't a lie. That wasn't manufactured. That was memory, fossilized in frame and light. He scrubbed the video forward, watched the lips move, the gestures. Langford's hands, once bold on stages, now tense, knuckles pale and clasped tight. He slowed the video. There was a moment, about 38 seconds in, where Langford looked directly at the camera, almost like he knew it would be seen. Smith froze it there. What if it wasn't surveillance? What if it was documentation? A legacy not protected, but archived. That single thought hit like thunder. He pulled up a document and began typing. Every name, every date, every shred of data he had. He wasn't hiding anymore. Not behind metaphors, not behind blog aliases. This time, he was writing as himself. He titled it simply, Buried Bloodlines. He didn't care about lawsuits anymore. He wanted the public to decide what mattered. He uploaded the first version to a cloud drive, locked it with a key phrase, Ghost Sons Rise, sent a backup to 3 encrypted emails he created from random terminals across the city. By the time dawn broke, Smith had published the first chapter to a secure public mirror site. No ads, no comments, no tags. Just a simple black screen and white text that began, "My name is Smith Johnson, and the man who erased me once called me his son." He took a train that morning. No destination, just movement. He needed space to think. Lucas had stayed behind. Smith left him with enough money and a warning not to talk to anyone. The boy had grown quieter again, but this time not from fear, from calculation, like he was learning what it meant to carry a truth so big it couldn't be shared in full. Halfway through the ride, Smith got a call. No caller ID. He debated answering, then pressed accept and held it to his ear without a word, a breath on the other end. Then, "You've made your move. Now, wait for hours." Click. Smith stared at the screen. It was happening. When he returned to the motel later that night, he found the door cracked open. Not kicked, not forced, just left ajar like an invitation. He stepped inside slowly. Lucas was gone. But on the bed was a note. "They said you'd be safer if I cooperated. Said they could fix this. I had to try. L." Smith didn't scream, didn't panic. He just folded the note, placed it in his pocket, and sat down. Because he knew what it meant. They were shifting tactics, not force, not fear, guilt. 3 days passed. Smith posted nothing, went nowhere, just planned, calculated, collected backup copies of everything. Then, on the 4th day, someone knocked at the door. It wasn't Lucas. It wasn't his mother. It was a woman in her 50s, modest dress, no makeup, and a scar that ran down from her temple to the corner of her lip. "You don't know me," she said. "No," Smith replied. "But you knew him." She nodded. "Thomas Langford wasn't just my employer," she said. "He was my brother." Smith's throat dried. "Then why are you here?" She stepped inside. Quiet. Measured. "Because I was the one who kept the family's records before PR teams took over. I archived everything, including this period." She handed him a sealed folder, thicker than the one from before. Inside were photographs, birth certificates, email transcripts, handwritten notes, even a diary page from his mother dated 2 months before he was born. "He knows. He says he'll support us, but only if we stay quiet. He says exposure would ruin everything." Smith's eyes burned, not from tears, from the weight. "He paid me to disappear," she said. "Paid me not to speak when my own child was rejected by the estate." Smith looked up sharply. "You had a child with him?" "No," she said. "I adopted one he abandoned." They sat in silence for a moment too long. "He's dying," she said finally. "That's the part no one wants to say. Stage 4. That video you saw? It was filmed as a personal archive. He wanted to write the truth, but he was too cowardly to share it. He still is." Smith exhaled. "So he'll take it to his grave." She shook her head. "Unless someone pulls it out first." That night, Smith got an email from Langford Technologies' legal team. Subject: cease and desist, intellectual property violation. No greeting, no emotion, just a demand to remove the site, the documents, the stories. And then, at the bottom, Failure to comply will result in immediate legal consequences and permanent restriction from Langford Foundation properties and legacy structures. He read it twice. Permanent restriction from legacy structures? What did that mean? He typed a reply. Tell Thomas I already lived without a legacy. I can do it again, but this time I'll leave the lights on. He hit send. 2 hours later, he got a text. No name, just coordinates. He mapped it. A hospital, private, Langford-sponsored, 5 hours away. Below the address, he wants to see you, come alone. Smith stared at the message, then deleted it, then retyped the coordinates into his burner phone and caught the last bus out of the city. When he arrived, the nurse at the front desk didn't ask for his name, just handed him a visitor badge and pressed a button that unlocked a side elevator. 6th floor. The hallway was silent. No security, no noise. At the end was a door cracked just slightly open, just like the motel room. Smith stepped in. The man in the bed looked smaller than he had in every video. More fragile, tubes in his arms, monitors beeping, but the eyes were still sharp. Smith, Thomas Langford said. It was the first time Smith had heard him say it. Why now? Smith asked. Langford looked at the ceiling. Because dying has a way of loosening tongues, but I can't undo what I did. No, Smith said. You can only confirm it. Langford turned toward him. I wanted to keep you safe. No, Smith replied. You wanted to keep you clean. Langford didn't argue. Smith stepped closer. There are more like me. I've seen the files. Langford nodded. They weren't mistakes, he said. They were possibilities I refused. Smith's jaw tensed. You built an empire on people you erased. I built it to last, Langford said. But now I wonder what it's worth without truth. Smith didn't move. Langford reached to the side, pulled out a small leather-bound book. This is yours, he said. Every time I thought about you, I wrote it here. It's not redemption, but maybe it's record. Smith didn't take it. Instead, he asked, Will you say it? Langford blinked. Say what? That I'm your son. Silence. Then a long breath. I should have, Langford whispered, but I didn't. Smith turned to leave. I hope your silence keeps you warm, he said, because mine will burn your legacy down. Langford didn't call after him, didn't beg, didn't say goodbye. Back at the bus station, Smith opened the leather book. On the first page, scribbled in rushed ink, he was the only one who looked like me when I smiled. Smith closed it. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel erased. He felt unfinished. Sometimes the people who share our blood are the very ones who try to silence our voice. Smith Johnson didn't ask to be born into power. He didn't chase a crown or a fortune. All he ever wanted was the truth, and someone brave enough to say it out loud. But when truth becomes a liability, legacy becomes a weapon, and even a whisper can shake the walls of an empire. Smith was erased, but not forgotten. Because no matter how many lies they print, some names don't need ink. They live on in what we remember, in what we resist, and in what we refuse to bury. And now, that legacy is unraveling. Not with a bang, but with the quiet, steady fire of someone who refuses to disappear. Before you go, drop a comment below if this story hit something deep. What would you have done in Smith's shoes? And remember, there's always a quiz at the end. Be the first to answer. Don't let someone else steal your spotlight. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories that cut deeper than headlines. Stories that echo. And remember, here, we don't just tell stories, we carry them. Until next time, stay watching, stay feeling, stay loud. Quiz. How many times did we mention Langford Technologies in the story?